Hello everyone, hope you are doing well. Today I am going to provide you the 6th part of We Live Here Now novel. Hope you will like it. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, press on the like, and let's get started.
Chapter 53, Fredium. The mood in the house the morning after the party is as gray and miserable as the sky outside. Izzo has been throwing up since dawn, which put a damper on everyone's hangovers. And the cleanup is a long and reluctant process all round. Emily doesn't really help, but she at least makes breakfast. Although no one is really in the mood for it, especially her, and it becomes just more washing up to do. She's quiet, not making much effort to pretend everything is all right, instead, claiming a headache. It's actually a relief when the others clamber into their cars and head back to London with promises to visit again soon. Emily immediately goes for a lie-down, as if she can't stand to be in my company, which sours my already bleak mood. She's barely looked at me today, as if the energy we've had to put into pretending everything is fine to friends, new and old, is all my fault. But it's not as if the party was my idea. I need some air, and figure now is as good a time as any to check the postbox for yesterday's mail, as I'm not sure my mood can get any worse. It's foggy age. I can't wait for spring, and I'm barely able to see more than a few feet in front of me as I stroll. But I'm happy to be out of the house. My phone buzzes, and I'm surprised to see it's the vicar texting. I don't remember giving him my number. Just to let you know that you can talk to me whenever you need to, totally confidentially. And that obviously goes for the concerns about Emily you shared last night too. Maybe you should talk to her doctor again. I frown. I don't remember talking to him about Emily at the party. I scan through my memories and suddenly get vague flashes of being huddled with him in the pool room, talking earnestly, but nothing more than that. My head starts to throb, a nauseating stabbing sensation, as if the effort is too much. Seems I have got a hangover after all. If I had whole conversations last night, I don't remember. I must have drunk more than I thought to. I send back a quick reply. I will, and thank you. 3 dots flash up as he types a reply. I'm sure she won't harm herself, although I do feel that's my responsibility for mentioning the suicide crossroads in the first place. I didn't realize she might get obsessed with it, as you said. Emily's not obsessed with the crossroads. Why would I have told the vicar that? If anything, it's the opposite. Emily's terrified of getting injured again. She's in no hurry to die. Why would I have said she might be suicidal? Maybe the vicar got the wrong end of the stick from something I said. Reached the mailbox and there's only 1 letter, no bills today. Thank fuck our life insurance policy renewal that needs signing and sending back. So I put the vicar out of my head, and as it starts to rain, I hurry back to the house. The pipes are rumbling, and I know Emily's settled in for a long soak in the bath before we cobble together an attempt at dinner. So I light the fire, which goes some way to keeping the endless draft at bay, and with a beer cracked open, I fill out the form. I canceled a lot of things when I started getting into this financial mess, but I never canceled the insurance. My parents died of carbon monoxide poisoning when working on a new house, and between that and what happened to Emily, I know how fragile life can be. I sign at the bottom and scan the details and terms and conditions. I stare at the numbers mentioned. There's a lot of money for a payout in the event of the unthinkable. More than I realized. Definitely enough to get me out of all this financial trouble. I stare at the figure for a long time before licking the envelope and sealing it up, as the fire crackles. Outside, the afternoon sky is sinking into night. There's a storm approaching, and slowly the wind starts to whistle around the house. I stare out as gusts go and wheeze against the bricks, and my mind empties for a while with the sheer exhaustion of months of deception. As the heavy splatters of rain come, I doze off. I have half dreams of Emily tumbling from the ridge dead. You push me, Freddie, her fingers reaching for mine, but this time she grabs me and pulls me down with her, and we fall in terror, staring at each other. The rocky ground hurtling closer. I finally startle awake at the sound of Emily coming down the stairs. and only after I gather myself and shake away the cobwebs of my headache do I realize that, for the first time in what feels like forever, as thunder starts outside, I'm warm in this house. Chapter 54. It's not the storm that keeps the raven awake. He has weathered worse in this life, on the endless, reckless moor. He hides behind the warm chimney, as the wind batters the front of the house, and fluffs his feathers to protect the cold husk of his dead, accusing mate. He turns his head away, preferring the cold wet air to her brittle feathers. Perhaps he should move backward and let the wind take her. Brightwing is becoming impatient. She has gone back to the others tonight. She doesn't like the house either, and doesn't understand why he has to stay. He can't explain to her why. He doesn't truly understand himself. Unfinished business. He wishes Broken Wing would crumble to nothing already. Is it only her lingering resentment of him? You let me die. You murdered me that keeps what remains of her corpse together. If she disappeared, then he would be free. She would be dust on the wind, and he could fly far, far away from this place, to start again. With Brightwing. No more before, no more forevermore. He needs to do something, as the wind finally drops, but the rain comes down harder. He raises his own strong wing to protect her remains. This has to end. His mate is dead. He knows that. Chapter 55. Milla. The morning refuses to lighten, the sky stubbornly clinging to a deathly gray mantle that none of the lights inside the house can dispel. It doesn't help that I'm so cold. For the first time since he's mentioned it, I think Freddy might be right about there being a draft in this house. Despite having had a long, hot shower after he left for work and lighting a fire as well as having the heating on, by the time I get back from a quick trip to the local shop for a pregnancy test, I haven't been able to get warm at all. Maybe it's shock that's causing it. My head hasn't stopped spinning since finding Kat and Mark in the boot room. I stared down at the test, unsure if there's a line there at all, or if it's just shadows and liquid. It's not a brand, I know. I should have gone into the center of town and gone to the pharmacist. But it's misty outside, and I didn't want to drive more than I had to. Anyway, I've probably taken it too early. Maybe I've got my dates wrong. Maybe my cycle has changed since my accident, and it's probably no wonder I still don't have a period. Maybe there is a slim chance that I'm pregnant again, but I expect it's more the shock of everything that's been happening. Not only has my husband been hiding things from me and gambled away our financial security, our best friends' marriages are a bullshit of lies and cheating too. We all started out so young and in love. What's happened to us? On the sofa, I tossed the test into the fire and then huddled close to the crackling flames and watch the video on my phone for what feels like the 100th time. My stomach flips and twists and makes me feel queasy all over again. Yesterday, the whole business upset me so much. I spent the entire day quietly trying to decide whether to talk to Freddy about it to get his opinion on whether to tell Iso or Russell or to leave. Well enough alone and say nothing. It's hypocritical of me, for sure. I mean, I cheated on Freddy, but only once and not with one of our friends. This is totally different. I could barely look Mark or Kat in the eye, and I've never been gladder for one of Iso's hangovers, distracting her. It was a relief when they all left. I felt so bad for Izzo. Maybe the over-drinking was because she knew something was wrong. I was about to open up to Freddy when he went out for a walk, and then when he got back, I was in the bath, and he was in an odd mood. I decided to leave it. Now I'm glad I did. I pull my cardigan tighter and glance around the room, trying to figure out where the draft is coming from as my brain ticks over. I realized earlier that the voices I heard on the landing when we had the late Christmas day must have been Kat and Mark, meeting up when everyone was asleep. Had they wanted to come and see me at all? Or was it just a good excuse to see each other without raising any suspicion? Using our home as a venue for a sneaky shag, I throw more coal into the blazing fire, sitting here in the relentless chill. My upset has turned very much to anger. The world is full of liars. There has been one slight upside. Kat, so much for her Christian values, and Mark's cheating has also put Freddie's gambling into a slightly different perspective. The gambling at least is an illness, and it was stress from my illness that made him do it. Yes, it was weak, but I do understand it. This sneaking around, and the way they were fucking was not first time fucking. So they've been doing it a while is something else. Izzo would kill Mark, and take him for everything he's got, if she knew. And it would break Russell's heart. Why would Mark do that to Izzo? I am blaming Mark for it, I realize. He's charmed Kat, made her feel special. That doesn't happen to her often. She's not a shining person like Izzo. It's probably just a game to him. A game that could end up costing him a lot. I sit up a little straighter and look down at my phone, a thought coming to me. It's like a jolt of electricity through my veins and almost makes me warm. It's not a pleasant thought. In fact, it's an entirely unpleasant thought, one that I never in a million years would have imagined I was capable of. It's the complete opposite of telling Izzo or Russell or confronting Kat to tell her to stop it. But it would certainly solve all Freddie's and my problems. Or give me a get out of my marriage card if I decide I can't trust him anymore. Asterisk. I stare at the fire for a long moment before reaching for my iPad on the coffee table. I'm going to need both my devices for this. Before I can talk myself out of it, I fire a text to Mark, telling him to call me as soon as possible, and then I sit back and wait, my heart pounding. Mrs. Tucker is due in to clean soon, and I want this done before then. I only have to wait 10 minutes before my phone rings, and I nearly throw up on the spot. Just do it, Emily, I tell myself, and take a deep breath before I put the call on speakerphone and press record on the iPad. So, I start. How long have you been fucking Kat? What are you talking about? He says, indignant. I'm not fucking Kat. Yes, you are. Is this a joke? He tries to laugh, but I can hear his blustering panic. Why the fuck would you think that, Em? I know you've been having some weird moments since your accident, but that's just plain crazy. I saw you, I say calmly, and before you protest some more, I took a video. In fact, I'll send it now. Jesus Christ, he mutters, as it arrives. I told her we shouldn't do it in your house, but she's so fucking needy. She won't leave me alone. Bingo. I watch the time ticking away on the voice note app as it records. Gotcha. Are you going to tell Izzo? Mark's voice is full of dread as he starts running through all the eventualities. I know she's your best friend, but this would devastate her. I'll end it. I've been trying to for a while, but Kat won't let it go. Asterisk. When did it start? I keep my tone uncertain. Give him hope to make him talk. I need to understand. And before I can decide what's best to do, the holiday. He lets out a long, shaky sigh. She's so different from Izzo. You know what Russell was saying at the Christmas thing, about how people are illusions at first. Not Izzo. Izzo's still as high maintenance and full of life as she was on day one. It's exhausting. Kat's so calm, and she's had a little crush on me forever. It just happened one afternoon. I think you and Izzo had gone shopping. It was a couple of days before your accident. Russell and Freddie were asleep on sun loungers, and we were inside talking, drinking. One thing led to another, as they say. He pauses. Sex with Izzo is all performance, and all about Izzo. Kat was so easy, and so grateful. I hate him on Kat's behalf for that, and the worst bit is I know it would be true. Mark's not worth half of Russell, but he has that blinding thing like Izzo does, and he has all that money. He would have made Kat feel special. It's only been a few times. Hotel meets. Nothing serious. Not for me. Honestly, Emily, I feel shitty about it. I really do. Awful, in fact. I can hear the panic in his voice. Please don't tell Izzo. Please. She'd destroy you if I did, I say, and sip my coffee. I'm amazed at how calm I am. How much do you earn, Mark? 2-3 million a year. I read that report in the Times on pay at Rolfman Betches, and you're top of the tree there. If I tell ISO, she'll go nuclear. She'll shake out all the apples in the divorce settlement, and worse, she'll badmouth you everywhere she goes. All those charities you support for tax relief. All those foreign clients you're always entertaining. They won't want her noise. It won't be worth doing business with you to have to deal with her. I pause and let that sink in. But the money aside, she'd never ever let you go. Every relationship you try to have, she'd do her worst to scupper. Her ego would never forgive you for cheating. Her father cheated, remember? Broke her mother, wrecked her childhood. You'd take the punishment for that? What do you want, Emily? None of this sounds like you. He's defensive now, the pieces coming together in his clever head. I'm not shouting at him, calling him a bastard, and saying I'm telling his wife. All I've done is point out the very compelling reasons he wouldn't want his wife to be enlightened. I want 150,000 pounds. He laughs momentarily but then stops when I don't say anything else, and the silence between us becomes palpable. God, you're serious, aren't you? It's a drop in the ocean compared to what Izzo would take. I want you to set up a high-interest account for me and put it in there. Freddie's been gambling again. I knew it, Mark mutters. I asked him about it. He denied it. Of course he denied it. I snap. It's an addiction. You should have told me. This new piece of information gets rid of any vestige of guilt about what I'm doing. Freddie's got me in a hole, and you're going to get me out of it. You must have so many investments and accounts ISO knows nothing about. She's never been interested in managing finances. There's a long pause at the other end, and I'm sure I hear the puff of a vape. How do I know you won't come back for more? You don't. Except I won't. You're just going to have to take my word for it. 150 seems a big enough number to either leave and start out on my own, or get me and Freddie clear of debts and get him into some rehab. I'll just need to figure out a way of explaining where the money came from if I stay with him. It will take me a while to do it safely, he says eventually. A week or so, at least. That's fine. Oh, and by the way, I've recorded this conversation. So even if you think you can escape the video evidence, you've confessed all on here. When I hang up, a big, fat grin on my face, I feel better than I have since falling. Since those awful "I'm going to die, I don't want to die" feelings. Maybe everything is going to work out just fine. Chapter 56. Emily. Mrs. Tucker comes about half an hour after my call with Mark ends, by which time I'm a little vague on why I went for blackmail rather than telling Izzo. My head thumps nauseatingly hard when I think about it. Blackmail. I go up to the bedroom and take a couple of pills, needing a lie down. I'm a blackmailer. The word makes me feel queasy and unpleasant. It's like the very worst of me came out for that call, but I can hardly ring Mark back and say I've changed my mind. I don't want to change my mind. I hate financial insecurity, and this will save us. I don't want to be that person, but neither do I want to be drowning in debt and possibly a homeless single mother. The sound of vacuuming downstairs soothes my head as I close my eyes and rest, and by the time the cleaner makes it up to the middle landing, the sickening pain has thankfully eased. The bedroom doors open, and I hear her cleaning the bathroom, humming to herself, before she runs a mop over the wooden floor and then checks the spare bedrooms, and I figure it's probably time I got up and made us both a cup of tea. In my socks I pad out to the hall to find her staring up at the third floor, eyes slightly glazed, as if she's looking at something that isn't there. My heart skips a beat. Is she feeling something odd up there too? Are you okay, Mrs. Tucker? She startles slightly and then lets out a small laugh. Was lost in the past for a moment. That's all. A rush of almost forgotten memories. Funny how that happens. The smell of the wood did it. The past. Oh, you see, My father was the gardener here when I was small, she says, taking another glance up at the third floor, when it was Fortuna Carmichael's place. I spent a lot of time playing here. I'd almost forgotten all about it. The strangest thing happened to me here. Oh really? My heart flutters hard like raven wings against a chimney. I was going to make us both a cup of tea. I've got some carrot cake too. I'd love to hear about it. And upstairs doesn't need any work anyway. Well, if you're sure. She picks up her bag of cleaning products and hurries toward me, smiling. Is she wary of going up to the third floor too? She waits until we're at the kitchen table, mugs of tea in hand, before she starts to talk. Like I said, it was the strangest thing. Must have been a dream, but it was so vivid. What happened? When Fortuna had the place, there was a cupboard up on that top floor. Might still be there, in fact. It looks like a radiator cover, but there's a storage space behind it. Carved holes in the wood, that kind of thing. They kept their luggage in there. It was my favorite hiding place when I was little. I'd make a den and pretend I was on a pirate ship or in a fairy castle. The usual thing. Anyway, Fortuna used that suite at the top as her creative space. It was where she'd drink and make her outrageous clothes and play music and, to be honest, do all the things that made me think she was utterly exquisite. I was in awe of her. And her husband, to be fair. Gerald, his name was. He was injured in the war, so walked with a limp, but he was pure Clark Gable. We didn't have people like them living here. They were so different. And they had one of those passionate relationships you think you want until you're in one. All fire and ice. A lot of fights. A lot of making up. To a child, it was all so glamorous. I listened, rapt, drawn as much by the mention of the top floor room as by Fortuna Carmichael's excesses. People would forget I was playing, and from the cupboard I could listen to Fortuna's music and wonder what it must be like to be someone so unusual. So what happened? I asked. It was a very hot summer, and it got stuffy in there. I dozed off, and I must have had one hell of a dream because I was sure that when I woke up there was a racket going and a fight, and then through the gaps in the wood, I saw Gerald fall on the floor. I could see his face through the carved holes in the cupboard door, and I was sure he was dead. His eyes had emptied. Then I saw her drag him into her third-floor suite. I could hear her panting and everything. Gerald died of cancer, though, didn't he? I interrupt, confused. I saw his grave in the churchyard. Exactly, she shrugs. It must have been a dream. It felt so real, though, that I snuck out of the cupboard and ran all the way home. When I went back the next day, I was terrified to be inside the house with her. But then there was Gerald, right in front of me, coming down from upstairs, hale and hearty, and off for lunch with friends. She lets out a laugh. No word of a lie. I was 6 years old, and I almost wet myself right in front of him. But what an odd dream. She picks up her slice of cake and bites into it, and I make an attempt to do the same, but my stomach is unsettled again. What is it with this house and that upstairs room? Mrs. Tucker had that strange experience, and I've heard all that oddness. It can't just be coincidence. She carries on chattering, and I half pay attention, but she's not talking about the house anymore, and I'm still thinking about it. It must have been a dream, or a child's imagination, but still, it's odd. I see her off, and then my phone pings with a text from Mark. I've started the process. We'll need some personal details for the account. I'm emailing you a form. When that money comes in, with or without Freddie, I'm getting out of this house. A fresh start. I try to imagine starting anew without Freddie. A part of me, maybe, the same part that's capable of blackmail, is thinking, screw him, he deserves to be left in the shit. But a larger part, the me of me, knows I can't leave him. I've been with Freddie for my whole adult life. I'm used to him. I love him, most of him. I'm sure I do, and I've done some shitty stuff too. Asterisk soon we'll be putting the house up for sale and moving on. It can be someone else's problem. I go upstairs and write what Mrs. Tucker has told me into the notebook, just to get it out of my head before putting it away and making sure it's firmly shut from any prying eyes. I need to stop keeping the record if I'm really putting the top floor out of my head. I lie back on the bed, finally calmer, and doze and daydream about a life away from here as the rain comes down harder outside. Thankfully, the house stays quiet. Chapter 57. Freddy. My mood matches the foul weather as I pull up at the house. One of the credit card companies called me at work, chasing payment. They'd already rung the London office, which could have gone to shit if they'd said why they'd called. This time at least, they didn't. But next time they will. Fuck. That would be a one-way ticket to a polite redundancy. No one wants someone with a mountain of debt working in their accounts department. Also, there are the other people I owe the 10 grand to. They'll come with more than a court order if I don't get their money back plus interest in a month. They'll bring a baseball bat. The noose is slowly tightening around my neck. Dinner will be about half an hour, Emily says as I come in. The house smells of roasting chicken, and it's such a change from her mood when I left that it backfoots me. What's she playing at? I would have cooked. It's fine. I wanted to. I'm not working, so it's my job to take care of the house. She leans against the kitchen counter and looks at me, almost awkward. I do love you, Freddy. You know that, don't you? I really want us to get through all this. You do. I'm hoping my face looks grateful rather than just surprised and exhausted. Yes, I'm disappointed, but I understand why it happened, and marriage is teamwork, after all, right? I give her a half smile for the attempt at humor. It's just going to take a little time. Asterisk, there it is. That superior and yet still a victim tone. She turns back to check a pan on the AGA, and maybe we should think about moving out of here. Her words are so light that I know this is what she's been building to. Sure, of course, if that's what you want. Get a proper fresh start. You can start going to meetings in a bigger town. She smiles at me again, as if butter wouldn't melt. I give her a tight hug so she can't see my face. Doesn't she realize how much it costs to move? And with my current credit record, where would we go? A thought dawns on me. This has nothing to do with a fresh start. She probably wants to take whatever money we'd be lucky to get out of this place and run. Once her share before the debt collectors come, I'm going to grab a quick shower. Is that okay? My smile feels like a grimace, but she doesn't notice. Why am I so angry with her? I spent all these months not wanting her to find out in case she left me. And now she knows and is prepared to forgive me, and I'm filled with some unquantifiable rage. What is wrong with me? I head up the stairs, the temperature dropping as I climb, and start the shower running before going to the bedroom to get undressed. I sit heavily on her side of the bed and lean forward to pull off my socks. I'm so tired that every movement is weighed down with lead. I throw the socks in the direction of the laundry basket and then just sit there, slumped. What a mess. I'm about to drag myself to my feet to strip the rest of my clothes off when I notice that her side table drawer is open a few inches. I peer in, curious. There's a moleskin notebook in there and a Montblanc pen, neither of which I recognize. Has Emily been writing a diary? My heart thuds as I take it out. What's she said about me in here? With a glance toward the hallway to make sure she's not followed me up, I open the soft leather cover to see what's been written inside. By the time I get into the shower 10 minutes later, the bees are buzzing loud in my head, and I let the hot water beat down on me, blissfully wonderful, as I try to take it all in. I knew Emily was having some weird post-sepsis moments, but the stuff she's written down is crazy. Asterisk, she really does think the house is haunted and that it's doing these things. Suddenly it all makes sense. The way she's been creeping around at night. So much paranoia. I don't need to quietly wish for her to go mad. It seems like all the evidence is there that she has. Evidence? The bees buzz at me. The evidence is there. Despite enjoying the heat, I cut the shower short and hurry back to the bedroom to take pictures of the pages. Why do you need evidence? A small voice inside asks. What for? I answered my own question by pinging a couple of the images over to the vicar, sharing my concerns. I almost emailed them to Dr. Canning too, but hold off. It's enough that Paul has them. Dinner's ready. She calls upstairs. I check the book is left exactly as I found it, close the drawer, and head down to join her. The bees abate slightly, and we actually have a pretty pleasant evening, culminating in my return to the joint bedroom and some urgent, if not adventurous sex. Once again, I forget to put on a condom, and I should have pulled out, but I didn't. But anyway, after the miscarriage and everything she's been through, I doubt she'll get pregnant again, so a baby is the last thing I need right now. Especially if she's planning to take what she can and leave. That small voice keeps trying to speak up inside me. Why would she do that? Why do you think the worst of her? But the bees buzz louder and drown it out. A part of me has always resented Emily, her holier-than-thou nature. The way she judges me for gambling, I know she thinks I'm weak, and maybe I am, but at least I'm not smug. And there's an unpleasant part of Emily that is definitely smug, and she loves playing the victim. As she lies on my chest and we both drift into sleep, one underlined sentence from her notebook whispers into my dark oblivion, one I made sure I sent to the vicar. Maybe it would have been better if I'd just died. Asterisk, asterisk, chapter 58. Freddy, the smell hits me like a wave as soon as the alarm wakes me. A vague rotten stench hanging like mist in the room, so strong that it almost makes me gag. I go out to the bathroom, closing the bedroom door quietly on sleeping Emily. The smell is worse here, thicker, like food rotting in a bin in the height of summer. The landing window is closed, and I think this is one time she could have bloody opened it in the night, and I wouldn't have minded. God, the stink is foul. I should wake Emily up, but I don't want to face that I told you so expression that she does so well. And anyway, this smell might be something completely different from what she claimed to have experienced before. Izzo was so drunk at the party she might well have vomited somewhere upstairs, forgotten by morning, and not cleaned it up. My jaws tight with irritation as I try to keep my breathing shallow and head up to the third floor barefoot. Izzo has never been good at cleaning up after herself. I don't know how Mark puts up with her banging body or not, because there's no way I could live with someone that high-maintenance at. After those few months living alone when Emily was in the hospital, even she feels high maintenance. I find it hard to remember how much I missed her now. Did I really want her to come home? Sometimes I'm so tired that I can't remember our lives before this house at all. The stench of awful decaying wetness is even worse on the top landing, and I cover my face in the hope that will help. It can't just be vomit. Surely, there's nothing up here that I can see though. Not even any tiny droppings. Evidence that maybe rats or mice have died under the floorboards. Although it would have to be a whole nest that had died to come close to this smell. Asterisk, as I head toward the primary suite, which seems to be the source of the odor. I hate to admit it, but maybe Emily really did smell something up here. And if so, what's causing it? I push open the door to the bedroom and fight back a gag and cough as a wall of stink hits. Something is very wrong in here, and it panics me. I avoided telling Emily, but I bought this house without a survey. What if this is going to cost a fortune to repair before we can sell? I stumble over to the window, holding my breath, and quickly tug at the lock and push the window wide, hooking the lever to hold it open. It's still dark outside, even though it's after 6, and icy air immediately tumbles into the room, embracing me, but I don't care. It's deliciously clean and sweet, and I momentarily drink it in. I wedge the bedroom door open and hurry back down the stairs, happy that the smell is already diminishing behind me, even as the temperature drops. Still, I think, as I go back to the bedroom to get dressed. Happy to see Emily is still fast asleep. She always goes on about the house being too hot. See how she likes it cold. I don't bother with coffee and sneak quietly out to the car. Whatever's going on with the house is going to have to wait. We can't afford to fix anything anyway. From somewhere on the roof of the house, I hear a bird cawing into the dawn and another answering from somewhere on the moor. Emily will be up soon, I think. As I head down the icy lane and pause at the postbox at the edge of the village to slide the signed life insurance renewal form in, a headache starts thumping behind my eyes as I watch the envelope disappear. Why couldn't she just have died? All my problems would have been solved. I'd have been free. She could still die. A tiny voice inside whispers, and the headache blooms into a migraine. The vicar thinks she's obsessed with the suicide victims on the crossroads and all the strange things in the house. There's a lot of medication in the house too. It would be easy for her to make a mistake. Take too many. Chapter 59. Asterisk. The car sends clouds of steam and smoke up to the sky as it disappears down the lane. The raven watches it go. The man inside. The raven does not like the man. No, not at all. Not anymore, nevermore, but doesn't know why. He used to like him, but now the man makes his feathers twitch and ruffle. The man has been in the house too long. Bright Wing is waiting for him somewhere beyond the wall. It's the cusp of dawn, and as much as he wants to fly, he will wait until light. He does not like leaving his dead mate alone in the dark. It reminds him of how he left her to die in the darkness of the chimney, and then he finds he cannot move. Guilt turns his wings to heavy lead. Bright Wing calls for him again, impatient. She is more impatient than Broken Wing was in the happy days when her wing was whole, before the shotgun blast brought out the worst in her. The pecking, the rage, the frustration. Peck, peck, peck. Sometimes, he's sure he can still feel her pecking him in the night, her beak sharp and cold on his soft, warm chest. He thinks she would still peck him if she could. For being whole and healthy and clean-winged, he waits until the sky begins to wash away the blackness with blue hues. And then finally, he prepares to leave for the day, to join Brightwing and hunt and enjoy the skies with bloodied beaks and full bellies. It's only as he leaves the roof that he sees the window below is open. He hovers, staring at it, that slit into the house, the hungry house. He can't take his eyes from it. Feed me, the open mouth whispers to him on the wind that his black spread wings surf across. Give her back to me. Before he knows what he's doing, before he can change his mind, he darts to the roof and picks up her vanishing husk, now just a few feathers clinging stubbornly to brittle bones, and tosses her through the open maw of the house, into the upstairs bedroom. Asterisk. She lands, facing away from him, a ghost of his love on the floorboards, and as soon as she does, a gust of sharp wind blows, and the window rattles free and slams shut. He stares through the glass, as inside the bedroom door slowly closes too, trapping his dead mate's corpse inside. At least, she's in the warm, he tells himself, as he turns and flies away, wishing that the heavy weight of guilt was so easily disposed of. At least she's out of the cold. He'll come back one last time tonight to say farewell, and then he'll be gone. Asterisk. Chapter 60. Emily wake at 7:30, just as a gray-blue washes through the darkness outside. Birds call in the distance, already up and darting around the moor, warm under the covers. Glad that Freddie left without waking me. I realize that for the first time in ages I've had a proper deep sleep. No bad dreams, no coma, no accident. And actually, my leg doesn't hurt too badly this morning, rather than waking to the deep, dull ache that makes me want to stay in bed rather than have to move it. Maybe I'm turning a corner, and soon I'll have 150,000 pounds. It's a strange and alien thought, and for a minute, it's almost as if it was a dream. I've blackmailed Mark. I really have. I don't know how I feel about that. Relieved, for sure, but also disturbed by how easily I did it. My phone pings with a text from Marilee saying they'll drop some equipment over later in prep for starting the job next week. There's snow forecast, and they want to make sure they can get everything up the lane now, in case it gets icy. I answer that it's okay, and if I'm out, just do whatever they need to do, as the gates are unlocked, but my stomach drops. At some point, I'll have to come up with a reason to delay most of the work I've planned with them if we're going to sell the house. There's no way I'm spending that big a chunk of Mark's money on this place. You wouldn't have £150,000 if it weren't for this place. I pad into the bathroom. It's true. Even if it goes in the am I going mad, or is this post-sepsis syndrome list of crazy things in my head, if the bathroom door hadn't stuck at those couple of inches, then I'd have come out and bumped into Mark, who would then have panicked and made up a reason for being awake and gone back to bed. And then, if the boot room door hadn't opened, I'd never have been able to get the recording of him and Kat together. It's just a coincidence. It has to be. There's no such thing as ghosts, and if there is a draft, then that could easily have opened the boot room door. It almost makes sense, but as I brush my teeth, I push the bathroom door forward and back, and it moves smoothly. No hint of stiffness. Maybe there was a door wedge I hadn't seen, and the door caught on it. I look around for one, but I don't find anything. I look to the bathroom mirror, and no steamy writing appears to give me clues. You will die here. That gives me flutters of disquiet, even if the study has since remained undisturbed. If it was me, it was probably my hospital fears coming out from my subconscious. But still, you will die here. No one wants to see that. Stop it, I tell myself. You'll be away from this house soon, and it won't matter. Did I mean what I said to Freddie last night about wanting our marriage to work? I think so. He'd never do to me what Mark and Kat have done to Iso and Russell. I've started to think back on our old dreams of living in France and running a little hotel or Airbnb. Maybe if we're careful, we could do that. My period still hasn't come. I'll give it a few more days, and then do another test. Who knows? Maybe hormones have added to all the weirdness I've experienced. I let the hot water run over me, and do my best not to think about Mrs. Tucker's odd story. I won't feed my post-sepsis delusions. There is nothing strange about the third floor. I'm still feeling chirpy when I'm dressed, and check that Mark got the form I filled in for the payment. I need to find a way to explain the money to Freddie at some point. Maybe I'll tell him the truth when the cash is in. He'll be so relieved to be out of the hole, I bet he won't even mind. If I'm okay with it, then that's his excuse to be okay with it too. I've kept one secret from him. I'm not sure I should keep another. Not if I want us to work. I don't want to be around when Marilee and Pete come, so I decide to take myself out for the day, to Taunton, buy myself something new to wear. Then do the supermarket in case snow does come. Maybe stop somewhere for lunch. Have a self-care day, as Iso would say. I leave the heating on. Maybe Freddie is right about the draft. But there's no way I'm going to admit that can't wrap up warm. It's going to be good to get out of Larkin Lodge for a few hours. A taste of the freedom to come. Chapter 61. Emily. I get home just after 11:30. The motorway was a nightmare, and after 20 minutes driving, the ache in my leg kicked in. So I turned back onto the country roads and ended up in a lovely cafe in a small market town, having a toasty and getting lost in a book for an hour. A twisty new Harriet Tice thriller about a lawyer with problems that make mine feel like a walk in the park. It's not been the full day out I planned, but I feel rested, and when I get back to the lodge I'm glad to see that the Watkinses have already been here. They've left a digger and various other bits of heavy machinery in the garden, and I feel a twinge of guilt that they probably won't get to use half of it. Maybe I'll make Freddie tell them we've changed our plans. It's his fault anyway. I go upstairs to hang up the new tops I found in a little boutique, not wanting Freddie to see I've been out spending money, but when I get to the middle landing, a thudding sound from the third floor nearly makes my heart stop. I drop the bag, forgotten, and stare up at the next landing. What now? Is this my head playing tricks on me again? There's another thud, and then a caw, and relief floods through me. A bird. Another bird is trapped in the house. My hands tremble. But my fear of the upstairs bedroom has been slightly abated by the night of the party. There are no ghosts at Larkin Lodge and I can't leave the bird stuck there until Freddy gets home. That's hours away, and it could die of shock and panic by then. I take a deep breath and climb the stairs, grateful that while I still feel that chill sense of dread growing with every step, there's no awful rotting smell enveloping me. I reach the top, glad I came home while it was still daylight. My heart pounds, and for a moment, while the bird thumps and caws against the bedroom door, of course the bird is stuck in the bedroom, my glance at the little stenciled cupboard. On the landing, I can almost see Gerald Carmichael lying on the floor, eyes wide and dead. Although he didn't die there, I remind myself, it didn't happen. He died of cancer. It was just a child's imagination. The frantic noise falls silent, and my worry that the bird has knocked itself out overwhelms my fear of anything else, and without hesitation I open the door. I stand in the doorway and stare for a long moment. It can't be. It just can't be. A raven is perched on the windowsill, and it hops around to look at me, expectant. It's calm now that it's got someone's attention. Beady, bright black eyes, staring at me as if to say, "Come on then. Open the window. Let me out." I swallow hard. The raven is whole and healthy, glossy and firm. Even the space where its wing is badly scarred and feathers are missing looks strong, and the area of shocking white around the old wound is stark as fresh snow. I know this bird. I've seen this bird before. I took this bird's dead carcass out of the fireplace downstairs and threw it away when I set the other one free. It is the same bird. No other raven could have those markings. But how did it get in this room? And more importantly, how is it alive? It caws again, and I force myself forward, my mouth half open still. It doesn't fly away in a panic as I get nearer, but shuffles from foot to foot, eager to get out. Close up, I can see the damage clearly. This is the same bird. I'd bet every penny of Mark's £150,000 it is, even if it's impossible. I open the window, and the bird darts out, whirling out to the fresh air in a dance of absolute joy, crying into the sky for all to hear that she's alive, alive, alive again. It isn't possible. None of it is. And yet that bird that was dead is alive. Asterisk, I look back at the space on the landing where young Mrs. Tucker was sure she saw Gerald Carmichael lying dead before Fortuna pulled him into this room. It was just a dream though, wasn't it? Asterisk chapter 62. Freddy, she's still convinced the house is haunted. I say to Dr. Canning, one eye on my office door. I've left it open just wide enough, in case Alicia is listening, and it's made her paranoid. The vicar is worried too. He feels bad because he's the one who said about the suicide victims being buried under the house, which hasn't helped. A shadow falls across the carpet outside. I've been warned 3 times already that my assistant, Alicia, is a nosy Parker. I'm not even sure why I want her to be listening in, but the bees are buzzing loudly, and it seemed like the right thing to do, just in case I need a witness to prove my concerns. And she's veering between manic and depressed. I continue, before hesitating, and then adding, I'm not sure she's always taking the pills you prescribed, and I don't know how to make sure she does without her getting angry. That doesn't sound good. I can hear the doctor's pen scratching notes. I'll bring her next scheduled appointment forward, but it still will be a week or so. In the meantime, I'll email you some recommendations for some good psychotherapists in your area. Not NHS, I'm afraid, but they should be able to see her quickly, and do what you can to persuade her to take her pills. The problem may be as simple as she's spending too much time on her own. Between the accident and the miscarriage, she's been through a lot. You both have. You're right. I infuse my tone with a hint of relief. That could be it. Try to help her enjoy the house. She's had a life-changing experience, and it's quite natural that her mind is constantly in fight or flight mode. She simply turned that toward the house, mistrusting it as a safe place. Self-preservation, really. Thank you again, Dr. Canning, and sorry to have taken up so much of your time, again. I was so close to losing her. It's perfectly understandable, and I'm glad you called. But try not to worry too much. She's a strong woman. I know. Thank you. Outside, the sky hangs heavy, pregnant with the threat of snow, and staring through the glass, I get lost in the grayness of it. What am I doing? Why is the thought of the life insurance payout constantly needling my brain? Emily isn't going to kill herself. I'm not going to get that money. Why am I making her sound more unhinged than she is? But what if she did? The bees buzz at me. Or what if it looked like she did? No more smugness. No more holier-than attitude. No more Mrs. Always Right. Just a big, fat check, and no more debts. Do I really think those things of Emily? Sometimes she can be odd, sure, but not all the time. Not most of the time. Do I really want her gone? I want to be free of my own worries. I don't want someone coming to put me in the hospital. But that doesn't mean I want Emily dead, does it? My head is throbbing again. I'm so confused. I need to get back to the house. Everything feels clearer back in the house. Chapter 63. Emily. Hello again, Fortuna. The old lady's in the same chair as before, a cup of tea beside her, but this time with a thick blanket over her knees. She looks like she's lost a little weight. More fragile than on my last visit. Do you remember me? I live up at Larkin Lodge. I remember. Her eyes dart my way, narrow and suspicious. The woman, I don't know. I brought you some chocolates. I hold up a box I picked up at the local shop on my way. Thought you might like them. She doesn't thank me, but nods slightly, still suspicious, but appeased. And I peel off the cellophane and open them for her, putting them next to her tea. You know, I heard a funny story the other day, about when you lived in Larkin Lodge, from a woman who played there when she was a little girl. I smile, I hope in a kindly way. It was about your husband, Gerald, something she thought she saw on the top floor. She was hiding in a cupboard there. Her eyes flash at me, sharp. Doesn't matter what she saw, he's dead now. He can't come back. Her sudden staccato words are tiny dry twigs snapping, a voice left too long unused. My heart beats faster. He died of cancer, didn't he? How awful. Her eyes drift out to the garden, and she lets out a sigh. We were happy after I killed him, my beautiful Gerald. Her eyes glistened as I stare at her, while she stares out into the past. We were happy after I killed him. My head spins with a sudden thought, crazier than the house being haunted. Is it possible that something in that room upstairs brings people anything dead that's put inside it back to life? That raven, so alive this morning, was the one I saw dead, I'm sure of it. But if the dead come back to life, then there can't be any ghosts. What's been trying to send me messages in the house if there are no ghosts? Find it. Fortuna takes a chocolate and chews it slowly, lost in her own thoughts of the past. I lean forward, closer to her, as if I'm about to whisper a secret. When I was last here, I say gently, you said you found it, but you put it back. You didn't use it. What did you find? Is it something in Larkin Lodge? The book, of course. She looks at me as if I'm stupid. What else would I be talking about? Of course. The book. I have no idea what she's talking about, but I play along. You didn't use it. I found it when we were moving. She gives me a sly grin, little rivulets of chocolate tinge, saliva in the deep wrinkles around her mouth. I didn't use it. Too late now. The door opens and a nurse bustles in. I'm sorry to cut your visit short, but we've got doctor's rounds today. I almost ask for 5 more minutes, but Fortuna cuts in. She's leaving now. Her expression hardens, as if she realizes I've gleaned precious information from her. She won't be coming back. I barely feel the cold when I get outside. To the car. Too late now. My head is spinning. I need to get back to the house and think. Hope you weren't too cold. I forgot to say I'd opened the window. Freddy's home when I get back to Larkin Lodge. And I'm so distracted by my visit with Fortuna that I'm momentarily confused and have no idea what he's talking about, and then realize he means the third-floor bedroom window. He's coming down the stairs in jeans and a sweater, changed from work, and the house is baking again. At least now I know how the dead bird got back in. Through the open window. But how did it come through the window if it was dead? Had it somehow ended up on the roof and blew in with a wind? It was as if someone had thrown it back inside, but that's ridiculous. Where have you been? Oh, just out for a coffee. Stroll around the village, trying to get back into driving again. I don't meet his eyes as I follow him into the kitchen. Thought I'd give it a go before the snow comes. Be careful. Those turns can be dangerous in the mist. How come you opened the window? I thought you were always cold here. I could smell puke. He pulls out a cheese slice from the fridge to snack on. You know, from ISO, of course. My skin prickles. He's not being honest with me. The house didn't smell of sick. She didn't make a mess. She threw up, yes, but straight into the toilet. There is something going on in this house. And Freddy can't bring himself to admit he was wrong. I've volunteered to take on some extra stuff at work. He changes the subject from the upstairs room, and I let him. Straight into it at the new branch then. I don't have the energy to argue, and he's never going to tell me that maybe I was right. I was hoping he wouldn't be back for a while, and I could have some quiet time to think and search again. But as that's not possible, I don't want to fill the evening with fighting. Yeah, covering some accounts while someone's on sabbatical leave. May have to work longer hours for a bit. That's fine. Every little bit will help until we sell this place. I reach into the cupboards to see what we can have for dinner. Pasta again, no doubt. And wine. Cheap and hopefully cheerful. Anything to help ease this awkwardness between us. I should tell him about the money that's on the way. I really should. We could play music and dance around the kitchen and feel the relief of all our financial problems being solved. I should tell him, but his lie about why he opened the window has annoyed me. It makes me want to punish him a little longer. Sometimes I wonder if this house is bringing out the worst in us. Chapter 64. Emily, on the landing. I stare out at the night, pulling my thick cardigan around my pajamas. The snow hasn't arrived, and the darkness is crisply silent, a void. If I opened the window and tumbled out, I could be falling into that void forever. Maybe I'm still in the void of unconsciousness in the hospital. Maybe I never woke up at all. Another crazy idea to contemplate. I can't sleep, which given everything is hardly a surprise. But with Freddy beside me snoring, I couldn't think either, and I need to think. At some point I have to start trusting myself instead of everyone else. I trusted Freddy, and he was lying to me. Mark and Kat have been pulling the wool over everyone's eyes. Why not trust myself? There was an awful smell coming from upstairs, and even Freddy's experienced it. Because why else would he air out the room when he's always cold? And why is he always cold when the thermostat shows it's baking in the house? He's feeling a little of what I am. Not the writing on the mirror, and the books flying, and the Ouija board, but something more visceral. And there is something about this house. Something odd. I know the bird that flew away this morning is the same dead bird I put outside on my first night in Larkin Lodge. There is no way there are two ravens with identically damaged wings. The bird was very dead when it fell from the chimney into the red room, but somehow, when it was in the upstairs bedroom, it came back to life. This brings me to Mrs. Tucker's tall tale of her daydream of seeing Fortuna Carmichael killing Gerald and dragging him into that room. I look up at the ceiling, imagining his dead body there. The next day he was fine, hale and hearty. Sure, that could be a child's imagination, except for that sentence that I keep hearing over and over in my head. We were happy after I killed him, but where does all this get me? Even if the upstairs room has some strange power to bring things back to life, that doesn't solve my problem of the haunting. The dead bodies get up, breathe, and walk or fly away. No ghosts. In bed, I curl up behind Freddy, his back, my pillow, and his body moves in a steady, comforting rhythm. As much as I find it soothing, I cling tightly to him as I drift into sleep. I can't deny I'm afraid. Because if all the other odd stuff that's been happening in the house is real, then what about the message with the books? Was it a warning? A threat? Or a prophecy? You will die here. Maybe if I solve the puzzle of the house, that threat will be gone. Just like we'll be gone soon. We'll have money and a fresh start. We'll leave the house behind and live our best lives. My period is still notably absent. Maybe 2 arrived at Larkin Lodge, but 3 will leave. But first of all, I have to know. I have to find it. Chapter 65. Freddy. 3 birds in the sky, slashes of black, stabbing at the endless gray canvas overhead. Ravens, one with a shard of white in a damaged wing. It's flying beautifully though, perhaps even better than the others. After a moment, the damaged one and the larger bird, maybe the male, break away into a pair, pirouetting around each other, and there's such joy in their movements that I can't look away. The other bird is forgotten. The 2 cawing and darting and diving so fast and so close they should collide. But they don't, as if they've done this dance a million times before and can anticipate each other's moves. But there is nothing of dull routine about it. Only complete and absolute joy. Oh, for that joy. I'm exhausted. I start the car, eager to get the heating working, and lean my head against the headrest. The bees buzz and my toes are still icy, and even Emily, curled up close behind me last night, couldn't warm me up. She was squeezing so hard at times I couldn't breathe. I look back at the door where she's waving me off. I smile and half wave back and then pull away, the gravel crunching as I turn away from the house and down the lane. Emily, she's acting as if she's forgiving me, but how can that be? I've lost all our money. I've got debts. She's veering between completely distracted and overly nice. Why isn't she angrier? Is it post-sepsis, like this haunting business, or is it something else? The bees buzz louder. She was out when I got home yesterday, and when she said she'd been for a coffee, she couldn't even look at me. Emily's always been a terrible liar. So if she hadn't gone for a coffee, where had she been that would make her lie to me? What would she want to hide? Asterisk. The answer rings loud as a church bell as the moors fly past me and the gray sky brightens, as my heart races. A lawyer, of course. She's been taking advice. How best to divorce me, I imagine. She's got money in her bank account from her injury payout. She can afford someone good. She's going to take whatever we have and leave me with nothing. What if she presses charges too? She could do me for fraud. I'm pretty sure of it. One of those cards is in her name, but it's the one I've been paying the minimum payments on, so it won't affect her credit. Even if she doesn't press charges, if that comes up in the divorce case, I'm totally screwed. Who am I kidding? I'm totally screwed anyway. My phone pings with an email from Dr. Canning, and I slowed down to read it as I drive. Please make sure she takes her medication, and I have attached some good local psychiatrist's details. My secretary is sending Emily some appointment times for the next fortnight. Reach out immediately if you feel she is a danger to herself or others. I frown as I realize it's a response to an email I sent early this morning. I scroll up. It's saying I'd found her awake in the middle of the night on the landing staring out of the window, and it was worrying me. I don't remember her getting up in the night. A jolt of memory comes to me, the shower running, my fingers tapping out. The email on the phone. I must have been half asleep. I'm so exhausted, all the time. No wonder I'm not remembering things. A horn blares, and I look up to find I've wandered across the central line. I pull quickly back to my side of the road, and then as my pulse slows and I stare at the road ahead, I try to focus on what I need to do at work today. One line of Dr. Canning's email plays over and over in my head as the road rolls under me. Reach out immediately if you feel she is a danger to herself or others. Even Dr. Canning thinks she might kill herself. Chapter 66. Emily, the air, has that crystal quality that comes before snow, and the frost is so thick on the moors that out there it looks like it's snowed already. Merrily arrived unannounced at 9 to talk through some garden plans, and I listened and nodded and looked at the beautiful designs I wasn't going to spend money on, and told her I'd show them to Freddie, and we'd need a few days to mull it over. We agree to wait until this current cold snap is over before they fill in the septic tank and start on the paths. She's breezy and chatty, and there's no mention of missing artists or Sally and Joe, so at least the vicar hasn't told her about my ghost moment. But the time drags until she leaves, because I want to get on with my own plan for the day, finding the book Fortuna was talking about. After she finally goes, my phone pings with a message from Mark saying the money's in and paperwork is on its way. And while I do feel a small wave of relief and a not-so-small twinge of guilt at what I've done, I put it aside in my head as I climb the stairs to the 3rd floor, having remembered the only place in the house I didn't search. Already, I'm sure the landing is suddenly darker than downstairs, but I ignore it, along with the creeping dread that swirls around me in a cold breeze. I don't look at the bedroom door, and focus instead on the latticed box that I'd automatically presumed was an old radiator cover. Even though there's a radiator a few feet along the wall, I get slowly to my knees, every hospital stiff joint protesting, and after a moment find the small catch along the left side. The front cover swings open, and, holding my phone light out, I peer inside. The empty space is about 5 feet deep and wide, and while I couldn't stand up in it, a small child could, and I can see why Mrs. Tucker would have made a den here. Even without the flashlight, enough sunlight comes through the lattice to keep the space bright enough to play. I can picture her in here, a suitcase as a table, maybe with a cloth on it, playing at teddy bear tea parties, or whatever she would do. But where would the book be hidden? Somewhere she wouldn't have found it. Fortuna found it when they were moving, so that would have been when she came in here to get the suitcases. And if there had only been suitcases near the opening, she'd just pull them out and not see any farther in. But they must have had trunks too, wedged against the far wall, perhaps by Mrs. Tucker as a child when she made her den. She'd have had to crawl in to pull them out. Did Fortuna find it then? A wave of the narrow flashlight beam gives me no clues, and after slipping one of my trainers off and putting it in the gap to stop the door from closing on me, if the house has one of its drafts, I reluctantly crawl toward the back. The air is stale and dusty, undisturbed for God knows how long, and the walls are cool. I press every inch along the side and back, but nothing gives. No secret cupboard within a cupboard, and once I'm done and sitting on my heels again, my back aches from hunching over. Maybe I got it wrong. Maybe the book isn't in here at all. I'm edging backward to the door when I see it. A small line in the skirting board in the corner. I look closer and see another line, maybe 8 inches along. My heart beating faster. I reach out and touch it. There's no click or secret door, but as I push, the skirting is loose and comes away. My cheek presses against the floorboards while I look at where the wall has been dug away. My heart patters faster as I hold the phone out to see better. There is something in there, filling a slot that has been dug out to fit only that item. It's a book. I can see the yellow of the pages. One finger on each side, I wiggle it from the tight space, ignoring the disturbed brick dust, making my nose itch, and slowly it comes free. A bound ledger, heavy in my hands, despite its slimness. The cover grimy and faded, and the leather spine worn in places. But I can make out the carefully printed writing on the front. Christopher Hopper, Surgeon. It's the book. I've found it. Chapter 67. Emily. I don't linger on the third floor, but bring the book downstairs into the sitting room, light a fire, and then get a cup of tea. My whole body tingles with the treasure of a mystery about to be solved. If I can just understand what it is that's so strange about this house, then I can put it all behind me and move on with Freddie. Get away from here. But I need to know. And the answers are going to be in here. I can feel it. I settle into the sofa, pulling the blanket over me, and carefully start turning the yellowed pages. I can only consider what led me to this house. To be fate. The weather was fierce when the burned man was brought into the hospital, and several of the staff had not managed to get to work that evening. So it was I, and not a nurse, who sat with him through his final hours. I was alone with the dying man as he muttered to me through the night. No others there to hear his strange story that could be mistaken for the babble of the insane. Perhaps I too should have thought of his story as madness. He was, after all, very badly burned. But after my years of marriage with Hannah, I know how mania can be, and this man, broken and dying, did not sound like that. I sat at his bedside and listened, rapt, as he whispered to me the secrets of the house that had forever stood on the crossroads in the middle of nowhere, that had brought him to his fate. 3 years have passed since he died, and some might say, I am now as mad as he was. I left my position in the hospital and sold our house. I bought the burned-out shell and have painstakingly restored it to be exactly as the dying man described. With every brick laid, I've felt the strange lure of Larkin Lodge, the hunger of it, the joy it has to be alive again. It called me to it through his words, I'm sure. It knows I need its help. Hannah has remained mainly in our apartment in Bath, which has suited us both. She enjoyed being a leading surgeon's wife. She cared far too much about impressing others, which was a part of her I found distasteful and has not forgiven me for leaving my position at the hospital. When we first met, when I found her refreshingly challenging and intelligent, and so charming and witty, a true equal, I did not realize she had a lack of ability to forgive, that while she loved me, she loved my growing position in society as much as my person. Perhaps now she loves it more. She'd told me back then that, like me, she wanted a more equal society. But she loves her standing in the present one too much for that to be entirely true. When we first met, she had been excited about the prospect of traveling and setting up a missionary hospital in Africa or India. But perhaps again she feigned more excitement than she felt. She was very quick to find reasons that we could not go, even though we have not been blessed with children. Perhaps soon, all that will change. The house is rebuilt. The room on the top floor is ready. The next entry is 2 weeks later. I keep reading. Rapt. Hannah finally came to visit, and she was in such surprisingly fine spirits after seeing how large and beautiful our new home was, and how she would be a leading lady in local society, that, prepared as I had thought myself. I couldn't bring myself to kill her. It was only afterward, as I waved her off in her carriage back to Bath to spend the month closing up the apartment, that I realized what a godsend that choice had been. I had not thought through all the consequences of what I planned. What if the dying man's tale had been naught but fantasy, and I had poisoned Hannah as planned? I would have had no alibi for her death, and it is no secret among her friends in Bath that we have not been on the best of terms recently. Before long the truth of her death would be discovered, and I would be hanged for murder. I have decided what I will do. I'm a scientist, and have been a fool not to think of it before now. I need to test what the dying man told me before I kill my wife. The writing is less fastidious in the next entry, and I take a sip of the tea that is growing cold beside me. I can hardly credit it, and perhaps it is I who is mad, but whatever is in the bones of this house, the dying man did not lie about the strange peculiarity of its skill. I chose my test subject carefully. It had to be someone I knew well enough, someone perhaps I cared for. After much deliberation, I chose a fellow I had known in the army, who I had been for a while great friends with, a chap called James Masterton, who I knew to have fallen on somewhat hard times in Bristol. His situation did not surprise me, for while James had a warm wit and could be very kind, he loved and discarded too easily, his vanity requiring constant validation, and his temper was too quick to flare, especially when he had been drinking. These situations always made him remorseful, but not enough to stop his bouts of vileness. It was one such unpleasant altercation that had led me to back away from our friendship despite his pleas for forgiveness. I found it terribly upsetting, having felt such a kinship with him when we first met. But there was no alternative, especially once I began courting Hannah Dot in the intervening years. I'd heard that he was living separately from his wife in small, rented rooms by the Bristol docks, that his drinking had gotten worse, and that the business he had inherited from his father was failing. He had been a good army medic, but those days were behind him. His life was a misery, and for all his charm, his failings caused misery in others. As I arrived in Bristol, to track him down and bring him home with me, I told myself that should my experiment fail, then his death would be no great loss to our society. He was happy to see me, of course he was, and it was easy to persuade him to come and visit with me in a week or so. The weather was on my side. He arrived on horseback, having no funds for a carriage in a terrible storm that raged for days, and he had paused to talk to no one, nor had he been seen by a soul as he neared the house, and he was in such a state of shivering cold that I thought for a while I might not have to do the deed at all. He dried out by the fire, merrily commenting on its warmth, although I seemed to be forever cold in the house, and we ate a supper of bread, cold mutton, and cheese all, though I could barely stomach a mouthful, and he bitterly bemoaned his current predicament, but also toasted his joy to be reunited with me as we shared some wine. And then, when I knew he was in his cups, with my heart in my mouth, I laced his large brandy with more than a dash of laudanum, and before it could fully take hold, I suggested we retire for the night. I pause and stare into the flames of my own fire, forever cold in the house, just like Freddie. My head is a swirl of past and present. Us, Fortuna and Gerald, and Christopher and Hannah Hopper, all linked by this strange house. He stumbled up the stairs and complained at my insistence that he sleep on the third floor, made some excuse about the middle floor not being ready. Yet in that perhaps he could help me with the work needed there. His legs began to crumple beneath him as we reached the second bedroom, and I held him up until he could flop onto the bed. He was muttering something and laughing, and then within moments he was unconscious. I would like to say that I had some misgivings about what I was about to do, but I was cold and wanted to be by the fire, and all my friend's failings had begun to irritate me once more. As the storm raged outside, I saw only the worst of him and loathed him for it. I had worked so hard for all I had achieved in my life, and he had been gifted so much and thrown it all away. I did not even have his charm, but a solid stoicism that I overheard Hannah describe once as dullness. I had hoped that the laudanum would be enough to slip him into that endless void, but damn me to hell, while his breathing was shallower, he was still very much alive. Perhaps he'd developed a taste for it over the years and had some tolerance to its effects. I had prepared for this eventuality and took the sections of rope I'd hidden under the bed and tied his wrists to the bedposts. He was a few years younger than me, and even despite his debauched lifestyle, more powerfully built, and I couldn't risk that as he fought for his life, he would overpower me. I was right to do so, for as I straddled his body, the pillow gripped in my hands, his eyes flew open, and the realization of what I was doing, along with not a small amount of confusion, was clear in them. "I'm sorry," I muttered, "but I have to know." I pressed the pillow over his face, as his body bucked and convulsed underneath me, desperate to stay in this world of the living. It was probably over in minutes, but it felt unfeasibly long before he fell still, and I slowly stepped away. The pillow dropped to the floor, and the side of his face, frozen in a death mask of fear and rage, made my chest burn suddenly, and I vomited violently all over the floor. A lifetime in the service of saving lives, and now in such a short space of time. I had become a murderer. I sat in the corner of the room for hours as the storm raged outside, my head throbbing and my throat sore from vomiting. I was desperate for water, but I did not leave. By morning his body had cooled and rigor mortis was setting in, and there was no room for doubt that my erstwhile friend was anything other than dead. When dawn came, I untied his hands, and despite having no energy, I managed to haul his body from the bed and across the landing, his boots dragging heavily across the polished wood. Finally, out of breath and my whole body aching, I pulled him into the room that would decide both our fates. The room one built the house for, the master bedroom on the 3rd floor. Outside, the storm was easing, and the first crack of dawn light broke through the clouds and streamed in through the large window, casting a spotlight on his grotesque corpse as I laid him in the center of the empty bedroom. Exhausted, and sure my mind was on the verge of cracking, I closed the door behind me and went downstairs to my own room, where without even getting undressed, I fell soundly asleep. I woke to silence and the conviction that I'd damned my soul to hell and that I had a body to dispose of. But, as I crawled out of my bed, the fool who had believed a raving madman, I heard whistling from downstairs. My robe about me, I flew down the stairs, and there he was, in the kitchen. James Masterton, a picture of health, making eggs on the stove. I fear I owe you a breakfast of apology, my friend. I must have drunk far too much last night and vomited. In the bedroom, I cleaned it up with some rags and have scrubbed the floor, but perhaps only 1 or 2 glasses of wine with dinner tonight. He was alive and had no memory of his own murder. The entry stops there, and my own breath is shaky. This is what Mrs. Tucker said happened to Gerald. He came down the stairs as if nothing had happened. There's one more entry left, from 2 weeks after that, and I turn the page. Will there be an answer to my ghost here? It was exactly as the burned and dying man had told me. I watched James for a week and he was truly a reformed character. Everything I liked about him was still there, but his drinking was moderate and his humor good. He was all I had thought him to be in the heyday of our friendship. He did not question this change in himself, but was determined to get back to Bristol and start work on repairing his business and his marriage. Before he left for good. I had to test the second part of the story I had heard so long ago in the hospital. James had gone to Exeter overnight to visit with an estranged brother, and I took one of his unwashed shirts, socks he had ridden his horse in, a handkerchief, and cleaned his brush of loose hair, and then put the strange collection in a warming pan and carried it to the top-floor bedroom. I waited until I heard him return, and then set light to the contents, ensuring the flames stayed within the pan. I would not set fire to the house like the dying man had. They shot up unnaturally strong, and I was glad there were no furnishings for them to reach, and I knew in that instant something had changed. I could feel it in the air of the house, and hear it in the rage of the boots that ran up the stairs, and the angry bellow of my name. Christopher, Christopher. I got to my feet, the other item I'd brought upstairs hidden behind my back, and braced myself for his entry. You murderous bastard, he said in the doorway. Part of me was stuck in this awful room, in the darkness of it, trapped in this house for a week. I will kill you for that, I swear, you odious nothing of a man. He rushed at me, his temper of old fully returned, but I stood my ground, and as he threw himself at me, and we fell to the ground, I pulled the carving knife from behind my back, and he impaled himself on it. Once again, I had murdered my friend. This time I would not let the dark part of him out. James has left. He has returned to Bristol full of cheer. He did not see the blood in the upstairs room that I will now go and scrub clean. I cannot keep this journal because they will put me in the madhouse if anyone finds it, but neither can I bring myself to dispose of it. Before I leave this house and country for good, I will find a place to hide it. It belongs in this house. A secret within a secret. And now I must go and clean. The room again, because Hannah arrives tonight. I cannot wait to kill her. I close the cover. The journal creaking with age, spine threatening to give way, my head reeling. If I've gone mad, I've not gone mad alone. Suddenly, the ghost is starting to make a crazy kind of sense. I summarize what I've learned from these old pages. First, if you put a dead body in the room upstairs, the person comes out alive and well, and with no memory of their own murder. Second, not all of the person comes out, only the best version of them. Parts of them the worst parts. The parts the murderer doesn't like it trapped inside the room. Third, if you burn some items of their clothing or hair, items with their DNA on them, the two parts become whole again. Then they remember. That's why Fortuna had that odd collection of Gerald's possessions in a box, in case she felt guilty and decided to make him whole again. Too late now. That's what she'd said. It was too late because Gerald died of cancer, so the part of him trapped in the room would have died with him. It's not a ghost in the house. It's part of a person. My skin prickles as I remember my accusations at the party I was so embarrassed of. Maybe I wasn't wrong. Could Georgina Usher have been murdered by Sally Fremantle after all? Has part of her soul, or essence, or whatever, been trapped here all these years? I stare down at the book, my mouth drying and hands sweating. I'm not mad. Mrs. Tucker wasn't either. I Googled Georgina again, rummaging through her artwork and her life, clicking into various articles and interviews, scanning them for any great changes in her life or the way she was mentioned. There's nothing. Then I read one that stops me dead. It's an interview from 2 years ago, and in it she's chronicling a lifelong battle with drink and drugs. Addictions she says she'd been struggling with since her late teens. I carefully open the journal again and look back at the last entry, where Christopher Hopper talks about the changes in James after he'd come out of the room. Everything I liked about him was still there, but his drinking was moderate and his humor good. He was all I had thought him to be in the heyday of our friendship. His drinking was moderate. The element of his personality that drank too much, that veered toward addiction, that part was left in the room. Wouldn't the same have happened with Georgina? I lean back against the wall, my head and heart both racing. If not Georgina, then who else could be stuck in the house? Who else could have been murdered here and come out changed? The obvious answer strikes me so suddenly that for a moment I don't even breathe. There's only one person it can be. One person whose radical shift in personality has been commented on while I've been living here. I think back to those letters appearing on the bathroom mirror that morning. Yes, the entity was trying to spell Fremantle, but not to spell the murderer's name. The person trapped in the house was writing her own name, her maiden name, as she wasn't married when she was killed. Half of Sally Fremantle is trapped in this house. From outside comes a surprising sound of tires on gravel. It's only mid-afternoon and I hurry as best I can up the stairs and replace the book before Freddy sees it.
Chapter 68. Freddy, are you sure you're going to be okay? She's in the kitchen when I come downstairs with the small overnight bag. I wasn't entirely honest with her when I said that I had to stay in Taunton tonight. Yes, we do have a client dinner meeting, and yes, the boss has booked our team into the Travelodge in case the snow dump happens as expected. But he did say I could duck out and stay at home, given Emily's situation. I said no, a night away from Larkin Lodge is just what I need. Maybe this headache will clear. It always feels better when I'm somewhere else. I should really get someone to check for a minor gas leak. That would explain my headache and odd times of confusion, and maybe some of Emily's strangeness too. Yeah, fine. I'll go to the book group in the pub. We barely look at each other. She turns away and faffs around, wiping a side down, avoiding looking at me. I got an email from Dr. Canning's secretary earlier. She says, and my eyes dart involuntarily to her pills on the side. He's going on holiday and needs to bring my next appointment forward. Pain in the ass, really, but we'll have to go to London. Better to be early than late, I guess. Everyone's lying, even the good doctor. He must think she's getting paranoid or he's protecting my involvement in the discussion, or both. I have a flutter of something akin to excitement that I don't understand, don't want to understand. And after you called him, I guess he was always going to bring it forward. I look back at her pills again as her rankles. There are a lot of them. There are enough of them. I was worried about you. You know that. I know. I get it. If she gets it, why does she need to mention it at all? Trying to put me in the doghouse again. The useless, weak husband who was always going behind her back. Will that come up in the divorce too? I'm leaving in half an hour or so. I can drop you at the pub on my way and maybe someone can give you a lift back. Then you don't have to drive in snow if it comes. I'm glad she wants to go. The vicar already thinks she's losing her marbles, so it's a win-win situation for me. If she behaves normally, he'll think she's faking it. And if she mentions any more strangeness in the house, that's more fuel to my fire. I go back into the lounge while she busies herself doing nothing in the kitchen, still pondering her pills, anti-anxiety pills, pills to help her sleep. There are plenty that she could use to kill herself. I didn't increase the life insurance this time. It's the same policy we've had forever. Nothing suspicious there. I stare into the flames, and under the crackling wood I hear the hum of a beehive. If Emily overdosed, my debts would immediately come to light and make people suspicious, for sure, but they would never be able to prove it. On top of all her paranoias about the house, maybe finding out about my problems would be seen as sending her over the edge. Has she consulted a divorce lawyer though? That could go against me. The flames licked the back of the grate, hungry, the heart of the fire almost white with heat. Everything could go against me, but they would have to prove that I did something, and I have plenty of evidence that she's mentally unstable. I take a deep breath and then have a moment of joy as my body thaws out. As fast as an ice cube dropped in boiling water, the house is warm, and so am I. Maybe I'm going to kill my wife. It's a strange and surreal thought, but it doesn't fill me with horror. Chapter 69. Emily, I'm not sure we should stay out too long. Paul says to our small gathering, at a corner table in the quiet pub. No one wants to be driving the lanes in a blizzard. It's quiet in the pub, and outside, while the snow isn't falling heavily yet. The flakes are getting thicker, sticking to the windows, creating an oppressive claustrophobia. There's a claustrophobic atmosphere around this table too. The only people who've showed up are the vicar, and Sally, and Joe. And I couldn't feel more uncomfortable if I tried. I take a large sip of my red wine and watch Sally and Joe over the top of my glass. One of the girls he was painting at the studio is behind the bar, and she glances over at him occasionally with such longing. I'm sure he must have slept with her. If Sally notices, she doesn't mind. They're sitting side by side, his hand on her thigh. His is a guest appearance, not a normal book group member, but he decided to stay when he saw I was here. Despite what he said at the party, is he thinking I'll be his next conquest? I didn't really enjoy the story. I break the silence. It was a bit grim. I'd quickly finished the murders in the Rue Morgue, while Freddie had got his overnight bag together earlier. I wanted to see Sally, and the book club was the perfect excuse. She's funny and charming and beautiful, and has no idea that the man beside her murdered her. No wonder she was getting headaches in the house. She's been separated from herself for a long time now, and perhaps her body could feel it. And a bloody monkey, Paul adds. All very clever, but really, not exactly satisfying. He hasn't said a word about what happened at the party, and I'm glad. I'm trying my best to appear perfectly normal, and he seems to be believing it. It's a classic though, Sally adds. First of its kind and all that. Although I'm not sure those best twists you'll read all year. Book blurbs on Amazon could get away with the killer being an escaped gorilla. We should try something lighter next. Perhaps a rom-com cleanse the palate. Paul glances sideways at me, clearly worrying that all the talk of murder might send me back to my paranoid suggestions. I was premature in thinking he'd forgotten what I'd said. Still, we'll be moving soon, and I'll never see these people again. Good idea, Sally says. Murder stories stop me sleeping. Are you okay, Emily? Joe's studying me, concerned. You're a bit pale. Sorry, I do have a bit of a headache. It's surreal sitting opposite them. Perhaps he's even persuaded himself that killing his wife was all a dream. They're happy. Anyone can see that. Happier than they were when she was constantly jealous back in the days. Merrily Watkins described. That part of Sally Fremantle is stuck in my third-floor bedroom. Maybe it's something in the house. Sally says quietly, her brow furrowed. I got a terrible headache there. Joe leans across and kisses her, soft and sweet, and she looks so joyful, and so does he. A quiet, perfect love, if unconventional. And all it took was a little murder. It's hard to believe, when I'm out of the house and she's so clearly alive and well. Maybe the book is the rambling of a madman, and maybe Mrs. Tucker found it and read it, and then dreamed Gerald's death. Maybe Fortuna never killed him at all. Too many maybes. Joe's still looking at me thoughtfully as I pull my coat on and say my goodbyes, and I have a moment of panic that he can see right into my head. You will die here. A warning. Would he kill me too if he knew I knew? No, because no one would believe me. There isn't even a victim. I'll drop you back now. Paul cuts in just as I think Joe is about to suggest he do the same thing. The weather's getting worse. I'm sorry about what I said at the party. It's freezing in Paul's old car. The heater blasting out air that's barely above the temperature outside, and the snow is turning to ice on the windshield. We've made small talk about the weather and Poe, but there's been the elephant of my talk of Georgina's murder between us. Obviously I'd got carried away with my imagination. It was stupid, and I'd had some wine and, well, I shrugged, as if that's enough of an explanation. Oh good. The gears grunt as he speeds up along the road. Freddie's been very worried about you. Freddie. I look across at the old man, surprised. What's he said to you? Nothing very much. He was talking to me at the party. Said you'd still been having some unusual experiences in the house. He shouldn't have done that. I'm a vicar, Emily. People talk to me. That's the main part of my job. Hearing the problems of others and trying to help them. We don't need your help. I'm fine. I'm quietly seething, part anger and part embarrassment, that they've been whispering in corners about me. And it's not like he's perfect himself, not by a long shot. In the words of Billy Wilder, nobody's perfect. He looks across at me, but he loves you. And I think you're a lovely person who's been through a lot. And we are both concerned for you, that's all. He's worried you may have some anxiety and depression after your accident. What is it you're all so worried I'm going to do? I stare at him as he pulls into the drive. Kill myself maybe. He looks sheepish in the gloomy light as the car comes to a halt, and I realize that's exactly what he was worrying about. The last part anyway. Jesus Christ, I mutter, and get out of the car, slamming the door behind me, ignoring his pleas to listen. What does he know about me and Freddie? Nothing. Maybe I should tell him how Freddie hasn't exactly helped any of my anxieties by getting back into gambling. But I won't do that because I do my best to be loyal. Because I'm the better person. I hobble toward the house and don't look back. Thank you for watching. I hope that you like it. Don't forget subscribe to my channel and give us a like. And see you next time. Bye.